Welcome back. A controversial issue rejected by Jackson County voters last night. It's the fate of statues of President Andrew Jackson outside the county courthouse. Now, President Jackson was a slave owner. County Executive Frank White called for those statues to be removed, but the county legislature decided to put it on the ballot. Last night, that issue failed. Now, we're joined once again by former Kansas City, Missouri Mayor Sly James, 710 AM KCMO talk radio host Pete Mundo. We're going to take a look at all kinds of things that were decided on yesterday. But Sly, let's talk about this topic. Many seemed a little surprised this measure did not pass. Were you surprised by it?
Not really. The majority of people the majority might see this statute as just a touch of history. You know, it's not now, why worry about it? For a majority of the minority, it is a symbol of deep-seated oppression that this country's never dealt with. The fact that you have an individual idolized in front of a courthouse where people are supposed to be equal in the eyes of the law, you have an individual there who was not only a slave owner, but who drove and forced thousands of Native Americans off their land into death by disease, etc. There in front of it doesn't speak to the ideal of justice or to justice, period. But frankly, to be honest with you, I'm less concerned about the statute than I am eradicating this country of the things that he stood for, and frankly, that so many people still stand for. The idea that people are not equal, the idea that some should be enslaved, the idea that some are less than others, and the idea that not everybody is equal in the eyes of the law. I'd rather get rid of that and leave the statute than to get rid of the statute and leave the ideology.
So, Pete, we're going to go to you on this topic. Same question here. And do you think we're going to see maybe this question again in the future, in a future election?
I'd be surprised, Carolyn. I was surprised by how overwhelming Jackson County voters, I believe it was over 70%, voted against it. So that's a pretty big margin. I don't see it coming back anytime soon. But to me, it wasn't just about the statue itself. It wasn't some overwhelming support for the worst characteristics of President Jackson. It was, I think, just as much about pushing back on the cancel culture that we've seen for the past 6 months, where people said, you know, if we don't like something, we're just going to tear it down, we're going to destroy it, we're going to loot or whatever it might be. And I think there's a lot of people that said, you know what, it's more about that to me and pushing back on that idea than it is simply just about, well, taking down a statue. I think it went deeper based on a lot of what we saw in this country over the summer.
Oh, Pete, Sly, very interesting take on that question from yesterday. Again, we're going to talk to you again a little bit more about the presidential race, getting more interesting by the minute here in about 15 minutes. We'll chat with you both shortly.